Hi, I'm Kim Keller. I'm one of the co-founders of Farm at Hand, and today I am lucky enough to be in the company of three fantastic ladies who all play very different roles within agriculture. And today we're actually going to hear their stories and chat about some of their experiences as women in this wonderful industry. And I'll actually let them introduce themselves. And Sarah, if you'd like to start.
Hi, my name is Sarah Schultz. I am a farm wife and farm mom to two little boys. We also raise on our farm wheat, canola, and yellow peas, about 6,000 acres an hour east of Calgary, and I'm most involved in agriculture in the online social media world at my blog, nurselovesfarmer.com.
Awesome. And Ginelle?
Hi, my name is Ginelle Pidwerbesky. I'm a territory manager for Central Saskatchewan at CANTERRA Seeds. I also farm with my dad about 9,000 acres just west of Saskatoon near Borden, Saskatchewan. I grew up in Prince Albert but now reside in Saskatoon, which is kind of at the base of my territory and only about 45 minutes from the farm.
And Marji?
Hi, my name is Marji Guyler-Alaniz, and I am the founder of Farm Her. And Farm Her is a photo project that I started a few years ago, turned into a business, and what I do is I shine a light on women in agriculture through photographs and stories, and through that create community for women in agriculture. And I am actually in the U.S., born and raised in Iowa, and still here right in the central part of the U.S., and that's where I am.
Awesome. Perfect. Marji, who has been your biggest influencer in agriculture?
My biggest influence in agriculture, as we talked about, or as I introduced earlier, I do not farm myself. My biggest influence in agriculture has been through my career in agriculture. Prior to founding Farm Her, I spent 11 years working in crop insurance in the U.S., and so I worked directly with risk management for farmers and ranchers here in the U.S., and that was my biggest influence in agriculture, for sure.
And what about you, Sarah?
My biggest influence in agriculture is my husband. I'm only one generation removed from the farm, actually, of a nurse marrying a farmer. But I didn't know anything really about agriculture growing up until I met my husband, and I don't really think I knew what I got into even when we got married. But I've learned so much, and I always say that agriculture is a passion that I never knew I had.
And what about you, Ginelle?
Initially, my biggest influencer would have to be my father. He taught me how to run equipment at a very young age, and got me involved in ag when I was very young. After university, I didn't really know what it was I wanted to do. After high school, I didn't know what it was I wanted to do. I attended commerce at the University of Saskatchewan, kind of fumbled my way through the different majors, struggling to find my niche. And after spending a lot of weekends and any spare time in between exams, outrunning the Cedar in May or the Combine in September, I really started to find out and figure out that agriculture was where my passion lay, and I definitely owe that to my dad. After working with CANTERRA Seeds, the professional side of things, learning different selling techniques and managing a territory and managing budgets, I owe the influence, or my mentors in that arena would be my coworkers within that company. They've really taught me a lot over the years.
That's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you guys some more, and kind of diving deeper into this great big world. Our next segment is going to just be talking about women in ag in general. So Sarah, what does it mean to you to be a woman in ag?
It's a whole new territory for me to be a woman in ag, because I have a hard time considering myself a woman in ag, because I don't actually farm with my husband, father-in-law, and now brother-in-law, so I'm not the one out in the field doing the actual farming. I'm behind the scenes and in the kitchen, which is a very important part of our
very important, yeah,
farming operation too. But I have a hard time seeing myself as a woman in ag, but I'm becoming more and more involved in the industry almost every day, and I'm slowly grasping that I am playing somewhat of a role in it, and it's very important to me, and the most important thing to me is reaching out to other women who aren't in ag, because we eat food 3 or more times a day, and it's a very emotional and personal thing. So I like to connect to women, parents, moms my age, and use the information that I have about the agriculture industry to reach out to them.
Right. I was just going to say, I'm like, while you may think that, you have a hard time considering yourself not to be a woman in agriculture, I think you've done a phenomenal job being, on the side of the farmer and doing a lot of education for those who may not be in the agriculture industry, and really opening up that dialogue and that communication. I think that's incredibly important. Ginelle or Marji, do you have anything you might want to add to that?
Yes. Sarah, just a quick follow-up. I meet so many women who have stories similar to yours where they married into it, and as they put it as well, I don't know what I got myself into, or I didn't know what I got myself into, but I fell in love with it. And many of them also don't, I think it's a growth process to stand up and say, I have a really important role on this farm, because my comment back to them is always, well, would this farm work without you? And the answer is always, well, no. So whether it's raising the kids or cooking the food or helping your husband with whatever parts of it that he needs support with, I think women play such an important role in keeping all of those things going, and always have. So I like what you have to say. And you said that at the beginning, you said you're a little disconnected. Do you feel your disconnection is because you're in a rural area, or because you don't actively climb up in the combine or in the planter?
Probably more so because I'm not involved in the manual labor, the physical labor of the farm, and that's actually something I would like to do as my kids are more independent and get older. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law and I are the ladies of the farm that keep things going in the background, cooking and baking. Baking is a very mess on our farm anyway, and going for parts runs and whatnot. But I joke with my sister-in-law that I think it'd be a pretty nice thing to have an hour or two in a quiet combine with nothing else to worry about and think about. But my husband always reminds me it's not always as easy as it seems just sitting in a quiet tractor.
Right.
Definitely. Ginelle, do you have any comments?
Yes, I would just build on that as well. I'm the one that's out in the field checking things out and running equipment, and my sister is the one in the kitchen keeping us fed and keeping our clothes clean and doing payroll. And really, that's, like you've all said, that's very accurate. Without someone behind the scenes keeping all of that running, we wouldn't be able to do what we do out in the field and be out there for such long hours. And actually, my dad has said that women run equipment very differently than men, and I would never say one's better than the other, but there's something to be said for sitting in this large pieces of equipment, and it's not always about how quick you can get to the other end and how quick you can get a field finished, but to take your time and do things right and pay attention to the little details, which sometimes women can be better at. So yes, I encourage anyone in your position, Sarah, when the time's right, to get out there and give it a shot, because it is nice to be out there.
I completely agree with that, Ginelle. To kind of go from that, Ginelle, what do you think one of the biggest misconceptions about being a woman in agriculture?
I would say that one of the biggest misconceptions is that we're not quite capable of making a farm run maybe the same way that a man can, or doing some of the roles that they can. I understand that there are physical implications that we can't always compete with, but at the end of the day, as these farms continue to expand, the position of the manager or the owner has moved away from doing the physical labor and pulling the wrenches and fixing things and operating equipment into things like keeping accurate, solid inventory records, making rotation decisions, managing people, which is key as these farms continue to grow, and more hiring and firing and retaining takes place, and keeping up with the logistics, keeping everything running smoothly. These are things that women in different industries have done for many years and done successfully, and there's no reason why we can't do it in the agriculture industry as well.
Exactly. I can completely understand and agree with that. You're right, the role of the farm operator isn't necessarily the pulling of the wrenches, but it's it's sometimes just, keeping things running smoothly, and that doesn't always mean that it's actually out in the field. Any comments from you, Sarah or Marji?
This is Marji. I just have one thing that sticks out in my mind. One of the women that I photographed here in the central United States, she had a quote in something that we did together, and she said, "Farmers don't just need strong shoulders anymore, they need strong minds as well." Not that they always didn't, but so that, I think, goes right to your point, Ginelle, of there's this whole other world as farms grow and evolve and have so many different facets than they did 50 or 100 years ago, and strong minds are important.
And the phrase "work smarter, not harder" really holds true as things evolve as well.
Right. So, do you think that opens up agriculture and farming as a viable option for, say, younger women who are looking into agriculture as a career choice? Or, a woman that might be marrying into a farm family, that kind of thing.
Yes,
or the daughter that, wasn't sure that she could be a farmer, and then, this really opens that up for her.
Yeah, this is Ginelle, and I definitely agree with that. There's so many different aspects that play into a farm, and everyone has areas where they will excel and areas where they'll struggle, regardless of gender. And there's definitely going to be areas where a woman can come in and do some amazing things, whether it's come up with a good benefit plan to keep employees around, or bring some employees from overseas. There's so many different areas where we can excel.
Fantastic. Marji, coming back to your point about how the roles, even within the farm, aren't the same as they were, 50, 100 years ago. How do you think that the roles of women in agriculture have changed in, say, the last 5 years?
First of all, I think that women have always played an active role in farming, whether it's as a support system or actively being, running the equipment or milking the cows, or doing the morning chores or the afternoon chores, or all of them. But I think that what has changed is, as generations shift, I think that the idea of those roles change, and I think that it's far more accepted now that a young woman maybe has done chores with her dad her whole life and wants to come back to the farm. I think it's far more accepted, and there's more of a community out there for her to feel that she can do that. So I think that they have changed, and maybe not the fact that they haven't always been doing it, but the fact that it's just more, there's other people out there doing it, and you can look at that. And that's what I do, really, is I show those women doing that in hopes that, younger women will look at that and say, hey, there's women out there doing that, and that's what I want to do, and I wasn't sure if I could do that or not, but I see that there's other people out there doing that, and seeing is believing.
Right,
so
right.
I really do think it has changed, and I think it'll continue to change in the coming years. Here in central Iowa, or in Iowa, which is in the central United States, we have a land change going on where we're almost to the point where there's more women owning land in Iowa than men. And that's happened as generations have changed and land has been passed down through the generations. And so I think as that happens as well, you'll see more and more of these women have a connection to that land and want to be actively engaged in it in some fashion, whether it's managing it or actively farming it. So, like I said, I think that there is definitely more of an openness to it, and there's going to be a continued growth in it for sure.
Right. And actually, I think, Sarah, you're a perfect example of a role that didn't really even exist 5 years ago as a blogger and as, you know, an activist on behalf of the farmer and on behalf of our process and the products that we grow. How do you feel about that? That you're bringing in a whole new role into the ecosystem.
Yeah, no, it is a whole new role, and I've been blogging for over 5 years now, and with our information-rich social media world, I mean, it's a part of our lives, whether we want to embrace it or not, and information, both good and bad, is getting out there, whether we want to or not. So, yeah, I think it's very important that we open up our farms if we feel comfortable doing that and sharing them with the public, being open, honest, transparent about the things we do on the farm. The farm used to be a very, very private place that nobody really had access to unless you were in a farming family or lived in a farming community growing up. But with social media and blogs and just all the access that we have to on the internet, it's very easy to get an inside look at a farming operation. And I think that we definitely need to be doing this to counter the wealth of misinformation that is put out there.
For sure. The Farmers Network is no longer just, you know, the neighbors that are within that, you know, 5 mile, 5 kilometer radius. Their network is literally global now. And the role that tech plays in that is huge, you know, from social media and blogging to even, you know, the different tech that's in our seeds and our inputs, the things that we use to manage our farms, like farm management software, things like that. It's definitely changed. Now, here's a question for all of you. I'd like, you know, all of you to contribute to this one is, how can the ag industry benefit from not only embracing, but also empowering these women who are already in the industry and those that also want to come into the industry as new women and maybe aren't that familiar with it? Ginelle, maybe I'll let you start.
Sure. Embracing and empowering women, encouraging them to get involved in the industry will ultimately just help to diversify the workforce. As farming agriculture has grown over the years and more opportunities come along with that, a lot of young farmers are going back to the farm, which is great to see. However, it's leaving spaces in the professional side of things, whether it's chemical seed companies, grain marketing companies, the financial institutions that support the farmers. There's a lot of holes there, and we need to fill them, regardless of gender. But in embracing these women and encouraging them to get involved is a great thing, and it can definitely be intimidating for some, especially if they never grew up in that world. But I think women need to know that there are so many different aspects that they can get involved in. There's a very professional side to this industry as well. Agriculture is no longer just about being out in the fields and being dirty and tired and working your butt off anymore. There's a lot that goes in to make everything tick. Great. Marji?
Just to build on that, I think that a more diverse population only goes to serve everybody. well. And so having more women step to the forefront or at least be vocal about their role on the farm, I think that will go a long way towards showing that next generation that they're there already and that there is a space for them if they want to go forward and do that. And just a bit, I always ask this question of people, of women that I photograph, what's one of your biggest issues? And one of their biggest issues consistently across the board is that maybe ag service providers or some person that they dealt with in an ag business doesn't take them seriously, doesn't look at them as if they can make the decisions on the farm, or doesn't even, give them really the time of day if they're not there without their husband or a partner. And my plea, I guess, to businesses in agriculture is to talk to the women, to engage them and ask them what their issues are and understand those issues, because there are women, whether you see it or not, there are women involved in nearly every farming operation in some way or another. And so I think that ag businesses would benefit greatly, and so would the ag community, by reaching out to those women and focusing on what they need as well as what the more traditional male role needs.
Completely agree with that as well. Sarah, do you have anything to add or comment on?
Not too much that the other ladies haven't already touched on. I think ag will benefit from embracing women in the industry. It's more diverse. Men and women typically think very, very differently, and I think that every farming operation, or a lot of them anyway, need that diversity, and even just different personalities on the farm, learning how to work best with each other. My husband is actually very into that right now, on learning different personality traits and learning how him and his father, our brother-in-law, and his mom, his sister, and I can all work together as a team of 6, kind of running our own family farm, and then bringing up our combined 5 children together on our farm. So I think that diversity in agriculture is great, and that women in the industry is a huge part of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, everyone has something to bring to the table, and the industry is huge, and we need everyone to actually come to the table and be a part of it in order for it to be, a huge success. All right, so next up, we'll be talking a little bit about advocacy and kind of diving deeper into what makes these women tick and makes them passionate about this industry. So we'll be right back. Thank you.